I'm sure like you, I'm in a bunch of Facebook groups that revolve around comic book collecting and comic book finds. And once or twice a week, there's always those posts like, hey, I found a Hulk 181 at a garage sale and I got it for a quarter. Or, hey, I bought a Vengeance of Bane for cover price. Person didn't even know what they had. 9 times out of 10, I don't believe these either. But I went through a little bit of an unboxing again from my dad's house recently, and I kind of hit on one of these keys. Nothing like Hulk 181, but stick around and I'll show you. Hey YouTube land, it is your good buddy Philtastic Phil here, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. So as I said in the introduction, my dad actually gave me another box of comics he found in his garage. It was just a short box, it was very beat up, and just like any comic book fan, I went through it and I actually recorded the whole thing. So rather than post up the big 30-minute video, I'm just going to do kind of like a little bit of a highlight here for you. In the link to this video, I will put the full cut of the video, kind of like the Snyder cut, but not quite 4 hours long, I guess. And if you want to check that out, you're more than welcome to. But if you'd prefer to check the abridged version here, then you've come to the right place. So let's take a look. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show off here, and by the way, yes, I am wearing gloves. I know that they are not archival gloves, but what are you going to do? The first thing I'm going to show is a healthy amount of trade paperbacks that I found in this short box. And just to reiterate, my dad is not a collector, and fair warning, very, very few, I think maybe only 2 or 3 of these were in bags and boards. In fact, I'll show you some of the ones that really just were nasty to look at. Like here's again, it's not a key book, but The Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix #2. Limited series. I happen to own the original run of it. Not a bad one, but you could tell this was just kind of crammed in there and pushed by the weight of the others. So, I mean, this is pretty much trash. Here's one. I don't even know what this belonged to. I think the rest of the book is in here. If we could find it, I'll show it off here. And there is, by the way, an ad in here for international correspondence schools. If anybody is interested, let me know. I will send you this ad, and you can certainly enroll in ICS, as they say. Okay, so let me go ahead and I'll get to those trade paperbacks for you. These I will show in the entirety because it's just a handful of them. So I have the Jla Avengers story, all 4 parts. Kirk Busiek writing, George Perez art. You can't go wrong with George Perez art. And these are actually in pretty good shape. I don't know why my dad had these, to be honest with you. I know that this was not part of my collection because I have mine on the bookshelf across the room from me rather. Put those aside. These I know I gave to my younger brother Joe, who I've spoken to on this channel about before. He's the rapper known as Mooch. If you haven't seen that episode, I'll put a link in the description. But here is a beat up and stickered copy of Ultimate X-Men Volume 1 and Ultimate X-Men Volume 2. I always really liked this Wolverine Weapon X cover. And also from the gifts I gave to Joe, but wound up in the garage, I guess he didn't like them, Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 4. Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 6 with Ultimate Venom. And Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 8. Nice Ultimate Storm on the cover. And we have a trade paperback DC Super Friends. Very cool and vibrant color. It looks like they're trying to link it to the old 1973 cartoon. And this is one I might keep, actually. This is a Marvel Masterworks collection of the X-Men. And it looks like you've got, besides issues 1, you've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1 through 10 in here. It seems kind of thin for 1 through 10, to be honest with you, but very cool pick anyway. This one is probably sticking with me. Okay, so I'm going to get to the actual floppies in the back. And while you're looking at this video, you might notice I actually have two paintings of mine in the background, two small watercolor paintings. The one on the left is based off of Batman the Animated Series. I think I did that one in 2018. And then on the one on the right, it's one of my favorite pieces actually, is a piece I did for Storm. And I think I did that in 2019. I'm going to start showing off a lot of my own artwork on the channel. In fact, I plan on, maybe it'll even be done by the time this is up, opening up my own Mercari store. If you want to check out my work and buy some, go ahead and click on it. If you want to take a look at what I have, even before the store goes up, take a look at my artwork Instagram channel. I post all of my Instagram channels in the description of these videos. That's at Philtastic_artwork. And let me know. And you know what? I have no problem doing commission for you as well. So let's hop into this. On the left here, I have DC Comics. In the middle is kind of other, and the right is Marvel. Before I get into that, I know that a portion of this, at least, was stuff that I think my daddy and I either got together or something like that, because the last big show we went to, and actually it was my first big con, was Comic Fest 93. That was the Wizard one. And this was the souvenir pamphlet. And this is cool because I didn't save one for myself. You know, we went, I remember driving down there. We didn't do any, like, the signings or anything like that. And I kind of course, in retrospect, wish that we did. But hindsight's 2020. You had Neil Adams, Joe Jusko, remember him from the Fleer Ultra cards? The Marvel Masterworks cards, rather. Peter Laird, David Lantham, Eric Larson, Scott McCloud, Todd McFarlane, yep, the Todd father. And this would have been just around the time that Spawn launched. George Perez, who we mentioned before, John Romita Sr., John Romita Jr., back in the mullet days. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Jim Shooter. This is when they had Peter David and Todd McFarlane had their debate. I don't remember what it was about. I remember that Peter David won soundly. But let me go ahead and hop into the books now. So there are a healthy number of these cool-looking action comics. Oh, better if I show them to you. Nothing, you know, in particular that jumps out, to be honest with you, but just kind of cool to look at. And, you know, as I said, the quality, yeah, these were not preserved properly by any means. We've got Adventures of Superman, and look, again, I could show you. This is one that was beat up. You've got a whole lot of spine ticks. You know, I happen to have this issue already, but I mean, even look, you can see the water damage or moisture in that. Here's one that actually I intend on keeping. I have a healthy run of Batman books myself, but this is one that is a little bit older than what I have. Is Batman number 316 with the crazy quilt. Very cool, older Batman title. You can't go wrong. There's a couple issues of Bionicle here, but what I really want to show off, I found this really interesting. There is a copy here. There's a couple issues, I should say, of Brave and the Bold, but this one jumped out to me. This is starring Batman and Kamandi. Now, a lot of these DC titles, I don't know too much about, so I took a look. And one thing I kind of found interesting was that Go Collect rated a sale of a 9.8 of that particular comic for $12,500. I have no idea why the 9.8 of that book sold for $12,500. From all accountings I've seen, there's no kind of milestone or nothing key in that. I considered getting it pressed and grading it cleaned because, I mean, it does look like it would benefit from that. There's, let me see if I can get on the camera here. There's a bend here in the middle, which makes me think that this was perhaps in a subscription box, though that bend doesn't go throughout. The corners are not well preserved, and the pages are definitely off-white. I mean, look at the back of this ad here. I mean, look, while it can certainly benefit from a cleaning and a pressing, I that would have to be one hell of a cleaning and press to go for a 9.8. I'd have to pray for a miracle, and then just to cover my bases, put a $50 bill in the inside cover for the grater. So, I mean, chances are I'm probably not going to get that one clean, pressed, and graded, but I don't know. I'm going to sit on that one for a little bit. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. A couple of other really kind of cool things. You've got a older issue here of Detective Comics. And an issue of a couple issues of the Flash, but this one jumped out to me because it is a darker cover. I mean, of course, with the covers, they're not in great shape. Darker covers not in great shape, but I don't know. I really like the color on this, the yellow against the dark blue. The mixed batch stuff is just like that. It's a mixed batch. There's a healthy number here of a couple issues, I should say, of Archer and Armstrong from Valiant. I'm aware of those characters. I've never actually read Archer and Armstrong, so I couldn't really tell you too much about them. There are several beat-up copies of various Archie books. Archie Pals and Gals. I think this is the one that was missing the cover. Laugh, number 238. Josie and the Pussycats. Life with Archie. Little Archie. Somebody liked Archie a lot. Here's one. Here is Reggie and Me, number 46. Notice that's Reggie with 2 G's. It's not Reggie Collects. There are some copies of, I remember when these came out actually, the Dark Horse Comics Greatest World, and they had these kind of smaller, thinner books. There's Out of the Vortex, which of these, to be honest with you, it seems like it got the most attention, at least value-wise. A very beat-up copy of Barbed Wire, number 1. There are also some Malibu comics in here, Protectors. Old School Image, this is, I remember when this first came out, and I remember liking this series, Mike Grell's Shaman Tears. And this was actually one of my favorites growing up, The Max. Again, not a great copy. And then there's just some kind of oddball things I wasn't familiar with. Triumphant Comics, The Chromium Man. Triumphant Unleashed, Dr. Chaos, cool name, I guess. Deathwatch 2000. I remember hearing about Deathwatch, but I couldn't tell you what it was about. Jack Kirby's Secret City Saga. And then these were older ones, too, that unfortunately they're really beat up. From Whitman Comics. Wacky Witch. I don't know what number this is. But like you can see, this is, forget it, this is probably a 2. And here's another one with a half a cover. Whitman Comics, Scooby-Doo, Mystery. The mystery is what happened to the other half of the cover. Last but not least, last I should say, but certainly not least, I have the Marvel comics that I found in this collection. I showed you the Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix issue number 1. Issue number 3 is here. If I'm not mistaken, I think the full set is actually here. There's a lot of just kind of 90s random stuff. There's a copy of Spider-Woman in here. I didn't realize she had a black costume. I probably forgot about that. One thing that's actually, it's not in bad shape, is the Gambit limited series, the first one, the full series. I still have the originals of that too. That's a pretty good run. Issue of Shang-Chi, soon to be a Marvel film. That was a cool trailer, actually. This one is one that's staying in my collection. The Savage She-Hulk, number 22. She-Hulk has been one of my favorite female characters, and happy to see the series. And I should say kind of bittersweet because now that first appearance is kind of slightly getting out of reach, but maybe it'll come back down. Trying to get a good example. It's just some weird stuff in here. I hadn't heard of this one, and it's not really worth very much monetarily wise, I guess you could say, but it was just a really kind of cool classic cover. Charlton Comics Group Space War, number 31. It kind of reminds me if you've seen the film Argo, which I recommend. It's not a bad film. Kind of looks like some of the layouts in that. This is really cool. This one's going to stay in my collection. A copy of Spider-Woman number 20. Very faded, but it is actually the first meeting between Spider-Man and Spider-Woman. Very cool. So finally, the kind of grand piece, if you will, of this haul. Something I didn't expect to find, and if you do watch the long form video, you'll see that I honestly thought maybe this was a reprint at first. Let me grab it here for you. And that is Marvel Premiere number 47. The first Scott Lang Ant-Man. Now, it's not a terrible copy. It's definitely not a 9.8. You can see there's some wear around the edges here. Trying to see if I could get a... Yeah, I mean, the black is a little bit worn out, and that... Look, a black cover, that's what happens, you know? The pages themselves are a little yellowish. Maybe more off-white, I guess. Maybe I'm being a little harsh on it. Yeah, some of the edges are more brown, now that I think about it, but the spine is in good shape. The corners are not quite square, but again, I'm not a grading or a CGC expert. I think that this might be acceptable. There is some pencil on the inside page of it, but I called CGC and I said, look, I'm not a professional presser, grader, or cleaner. You know, will pencil mark come out? And they said, as long as somebody didn't just like scrimshaw and just really press down into the page, pencil should come out. So the next time I do send something to CGC, which probably is not going to be until later this year at the earliest, that is definitely something I'm going to send, not only to have graded, of course, but also cleaned and pressed. Thank you for checking out this video. I do appreciate it as always. If you saw what you liked, of course, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to this channel. If there's any comics or artwork or anything that you liked in here, or if there was a hidden gem I just didn't catch up onto, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, share this video with your friends and family. Thank you again for checking out my channel. I hope that you enjoyed it. Peace, love, and comics. Good night.